Hey, Kevin. What are you doing?
Hey. Well, I was using my Everlast PowerTIG 255 EXT over here working on a sculpture, and this is the TIG torch, and I was over there trying to weld, and I kept going click, 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 and nothing. It wouldn't work. Quit working. And I thought, oh heck, okay. So I figured, well, let's go back to the old mechanics days. Let's troubleshoot a little bit. So, just listening to it, and you just listen to that switch, and it's clicking. You can hear the electrical part of the switch, and they're going click, click, click every time you push the button, but the machine's not doing anything. All right? So, just unhook the torch trigger, the finger trigger from the machine, and then I just hooked up the foot pedal, and voila, the machine works just fine. Went back to the trigger, doesn't work. Okay? That's pretty easy to figure out. It's got to either be something in that switch or something in the wiring, because when I use this, a lot of times this is getting bent, because I'm wiggling it around, I'm trying to get into places, so the most used part, that's what I always look for. Go to the most used part, because that's going to be the one that's going to be bad more often than not, would be the trigger, or those wires. I thought maybe I'd broken a wire. Right there where it kinks all the time. Right there where it bends back and forth where I'm trying to get into someplace. So, one or the other. So, let's open it up. One of the first things I noticed when I took the little shield off and started cutting the two spot ties loose that hold this to the torch body itself is that there's a whole lot of movement in this wire right here. When I check the air-cooled torch, which has the same trigger, there's no movement. On the back of the switch, it's got this little panel, and you can see it's got little catches right in there on both sides. So we can just go in there and just pop that out real easy. And lo and behold, a broken wire. Probably because the way this is spot tied to the torch and the way it's moving all the time, this is getting pulled. That wire is getting pulled, and that's going to pop it loose from where the solder joint was. So now, do you know how to solder?
It's been a while.
Been a while. Yeah, me too. So let's just set it up here, and we'll put it in a little vise, and then we'll set it up, and we can just go in there and solder that wire on, and you can see how to do that. You see, the first thing we can do, you can check inside here. Look at that, switch just pops right out. See, the switch isn't held in by anything except for the back, and there's just a little catch right in here that helps hold the switch that way up against the little trigger that works, that actually trips the little micro switch. So we can get it out of this housing. Now this is a little more accessible. So you can just clamp this in this little vise. Not too tight. Just enough to hold that switch in place. Clean up my new end there. Now this stuff is called Uniflux. It's a soldering paste. So what that does is it helps clean the connection. Clean both sides. You can get some solder on it, so it'll stick to the copper contact, and then you can get the solder to go together. So just a little dab. Well, not quite that big a dab. Just a little dab on that end.
So you've had that soldering
yeah, it's been sitting here warming up. You see, so the solder will melt to it pretty quick. And what I like to do is just come in and let's get the wire hot. See, now that copper wire is all covered in solder. come over to the switch. You just touch it. Hopefully I didn't ruin it. And then just line it up. Give it a chance, give the solder a chance to melt on both ends. And then when you look at it, when you first do it, and it's molten, it's real shiny. And then if you watch it, all of a sudden it gets kind of dull. That means it's hard. And there we go. Don't forget to unplug the soldering iron. Just put that little bad boy down someplace where it's out of the way. Oh, then the switch goes back down inside the body of the switch itself. It goes in underneath that little catch inside there, so it's held in. There. The switch still goes click click when you push on it, so cool. So let me just hook this back up to the machine, and we'll just fire it up and give it a couple little test clicks just to make sure this is working again. Then you just put the connector back in for the torch trigger. That way, before you put everything all back together, before you spot tie it, check it, And all I really want to do is either listen for gas, because I wasn't getting any, or just watch the ball in the flow meter. If you click it and the ball comes up, that means you got gas. Cool. And that's all you need to do to fix it. Now I can just put some spot ties back on it, put my cover back over it, get it spot tied back on correctly. I use the heck out of this thing. I really do. It gets into a bunch of awkward different positions. And just the way this cable is always moving right there. Tug, 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 tug. I'll come up with a way to clamp the cable, clamp the wire also to the torch body, and clamp the torch, or clamp the trigger to the body. So it's not pulling on that electrical connection, it's pulling on that clamp instead. I think that'll last a little longer. So if your torch ever dies, and you think, oh my God, what happened? More than likely, the most used part, the switch or the wire. So let me put all this back together. I'll go back to work. Oh, you guys got to come out to the website. Don't forget that. Sign up for my newsletter. I appreciate it. See you next time. The nice guy in the brown truck was just here and dropped off a package from Everlast Power Equipment. And lo and behold, boy, talk about customer service. Here's a brand new TIG finger control switch. Now, how did you guys know that?